Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Average Pundits podcast, your home of all things Premier League. Instant, groundbreaking football news that we're talking about on this one today. We're not going through results. We're not going to go through another international break one, thank God. We're going to be talking about something which has been breaking today. But firstly, as always, I'm joined with Reese. How you doing, Reese?
Very good, very interesting. And we're hopping on while, striking while the iron's hot with this story. So there's what better time to cover this than now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this morning, I think it was first reported by the Telegraph, I believe. Don't quote me on that 100%, but I'm pretty sure it was the Telegraph. It's definitely the Telegraph I saw it on. West Brom in talks of £150 million takeover, roughly around $200 million, just under $200 million, £150 million takeover from, as of now, an unnamed American consortium. Very ominous, very ominous indeed. So at the moment, West Brom, promoted from last season, haven't exactly been having the best run in the Premier League. I can very confidently say that. I think they do still remain winless, if I'm not mistaken, Reese.
Yes, they are winless. They're 19th. They're not rock bottom because they do have a couple draws under their belt. They've played 9 games, drawn 3. And I think one of the games of the season, looking back at it, is when West Brom drew with Chelsea. One of the most important games of the season so far, that's for sure. And then they've lost the remaining 6. They've conceded 18 goals so far in those 6 losses. And the draws as well because of the 3 goals scored against Chelsea. They've only scored in 3 games, they've scored 6 goals in those 3 games, half of which were put past Kepa.
Amazing.
Just shows the caliber of Kepa.
What a stat that is.
And out of those, what we're going to get into later in maybe where they should go with this. They've conceded 18 goals, and it's quite interesting to see how many of them are in which half. To which 12 of them were conceded in the second half. 12 of those 18 goals were scored in the second half against West Brom.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And they also average over the last 9 games, they've averaged 36.5% possession. Definitely
a club in a bit of trouble at the moment. That's one thing to say. I mean, I will speak some of their credit. It would be a crime not to mention the weekend. Obviously, a very controversial game against Manchester United, which ended in a 1-0 win for us. Bruno Fernandes, second time taken penalty, first time saved. VAR controversy again, man. VAR all the time.
So at the other 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. It'll come to life.
The other end of the pitch, I think it was Conor Gallagher brought down in the penalty box by Bruno Fernandes. Whether there was enough contact on it, personally, I don't believe there was. I know obviously United hat on, all that stuff, but sometimes you look and you just think, oh my God, what are they doing? That is evident. And it looks on occasion like Bruno puts the ball through his legs, but there's enough contact on like shin to shin for it to be a penalty. But really, I don't think there was all that much in it. I think it really could have gone either way. I mean, straight away, the ref calls it. Then he went over to the monitor, reversed his decision. So, and that's an example of where, we maybe not seen VAR used so much or so well in the past, going for that second viewing, going for that second opinion. But he came back and no penalty. So the game goes on. Then at the other end of the pitch, I think it was Juan Mata was whipping the ball into the box, and I can't remember who handballed it now, but it was a handball in the West Brom box. Evidently clear. It was a handball, no arguing there. Penalty was taken. Penalty was saved by man of the match, Sam Johnston. I will say that, ex-United player. He was absolutely incredible in that game. Very unfortunate to have to retake that penalty, but according to the rules, he did jump off his line when the save was made. So penalty gets taken again. Bruno puts the second attempt at the penalty behind the keeper, and that's the second time Bruno's had to do a penalty retake this season, which is interesting. But it brought in a huge argument of it's kind of goalkeeper instinct, isn't it? To to move about a little bit? And is it necessarily harsh that they're coming off their line? Are they really coming off their line so much? I don't know what you think about it, but the retaking penalties certainly divided fans online after the game.
Yeah, I think, as long as it's not ridiculous, I don't think it needs to be called. As long as it's not like, you know how Jersey Dudek did against AC Milan in that penalty shootout in Istanbul. If it's that crazy, I don't think so. But I don't think Sam Johnston was that bad. I mean, if the rules state something and they're following the rules, then you can't exactly fault the referee. He's doing what he's doing what he can to help run the game smoothly. But it's just a really unlucky situation for West Brom to be in. When they do have something going well for them, when they do have a draw in the bag against arguably England's most marketable team, you kind of have that massive wave of momentum to take that forward. And I think that's what they missed out on with the retake of the penalty, which is, I mean, VAR is always going to pop up no matter what throughout this season.
Yeah.
And I think the referees have a very good time of it. They kind of have better leeway because they don't have the fans in the stadiums. I think they have a bit more of a, bit more leeway.
I mean, that's an argument, isn't it? I mean, maybe they should be more concise with their decisions because they don't have the distraction of the cheering fans behind them and the jeers and stuff like that. They can effectively perform their job without the fans being directly staring. Obviously, they're all watching from home, but they're not directly staring at them in the arena. But still, these controversial calls come out, and definitely that call was controversial. It brings a lot of conversation about English refs and stuff. And we talked a bit about this on the VAR debate. So if you haven't seen that podcast, please go back and give that one a little watch or a little listen and just see what our opinions were on that matter. But yeah, Sam Johnston, one thing I will say, absolutely incredible in that game. And West Brom were very unfortunate, I think, not to get points off us. I think we were incredibly lucky. There's so many issues at Manchester United, and that game is not it's a scapegoat. It's one that just kind of gets brushed under the carpet, and it's another result which maybe keeps Ollie in a job. Maybe it brushes stuff under the carpet. It hides a few things under the cracks. It's like, oh well, it's a win. It's 3 points, but there was far more to worry about there. There was some really good saves from De Gea in that game, more from Sam Johnston, but definitely a game which West Brom, unfortunately, not to get some points on the board for. But either way, we're in this position now. West Brom are winless in the Premier League. They're definitely looking like a relegation contender right now, unless they have a really strong push in the new year. Slaven Bilic, he's got to be one of the names teetered for the chopping block. Would you say he's your first manager potentially shown the exit door this season?
Yeah, he's definitely up there. I think I don't think he's maybe like first, just because he is with a promoted club. He is with West Bromwich Albion, and they did do well to get promoted. I watched the final game of the season for them, and it was fantastic to see him come up to the Premier League. I think Bilic has done so well with this organisation so far, and to see him kind of be flustered in the bright lights of the Premier League, it's kind of it was unexpected. I didn't expect a lot from West Brom, but I expected more than this so far. So maybe there's with this new unknown American consortium coming through, will there be a bit of backing from them maybe in January, if that's the case, and maybe if Bilic can command that. Because he is a good manager. He took West Ham to some great heights when he was there. So yeah. I think it's only a matter of time before we see what happens. I think that Bilic, if this deal does go through, might be given a bit more time to settle down with the new owners and see where things go. And maybe Bilic can kind of have a story of the great escape that Sunderland fans are all too common with.
Yeah, I think the thing is if he can. So obviously, when there's talks of a takeover as well, and there's new ownership and there's new people that are invested in the club, they might have a different direction. You never know. They could be Bilic showing the exit door, and they try and bring in a premium manager. So the majority shareholder, Gushen Lai, bought the club in 2016. Chinese businessman comes in, I think, multi-billionaire, buys the club in 2016, and since then they've fluctuated in and around the Premier League, sometimes featuring, sometimes going back down to the Championship. So there's a clear argument there of whether, too good for the Championship, not good enough for the Prem, and I think last season, like you said, they did very well to come up. very well indeed. And now they're kind of here. They're playing with all the big dogs, and it can be a little bit overwhelming at times. But there's clear talent in and amongst the team. I mean, no much so more than probably that Pereira. I think he's a very, very talented player. I think the majority of their entire game was ran through him. Conor Gallagher, again, another player with promise in amongst their ranks. But that Pereira, I think he is genuinely a special player. And if obviously West Brom were to go down, or they're potentially, there are interested parties in January, he could be someone looking for the exit door. So something like a takeover could help players of his caliber stay. Because, 150 million coming in, that's what Lai apparently wants for the shares. And that's the majority share. I think that's like 85% of West Bromwich Albion. So there'll be a 15% minority still owned by someone else, but this unnamed American consortium coming in would have the majority shares. So they would pretty much sign off on all the decisions of the club. So if they came in with a bit of passion, a bit of investment, obviously a Midlands club, a lot of football being played in the Midlands, very marketable area, and I'm surprised that a big money move, obviously Wolverhampton have had, a huge project happening there. We're seeing a little bit more money being pumped into Aston Villa, gets them some good form, a few more, informed signings and stuff, and we're starting to see some form from Villa. Still waiting for the Birmingham City one, but you never know, could happen. But West Brom, do you think they have the ability to have this, takeover and become an English elite club?
It depends what they do with the money. It depends on, because they are unnamed at the moment. We're not sure on who they are, how much money they're going to have. We just know the price for the majority share, and that it's an American consortium. So in that case, we're going to have to maybe follow up on this when we do know a few more details. They have a lot of talent there. I mean, it was only this summer that they signed Grady Diangana from West Ham United. They had Mateus Pereira on loan last year, which basically carried West Brom through last season. And the defence as well with Semi Ajay. He's a fantastic defender, the centre-back from Nigeria. Probably one of the best defenders last season in the Championship. So they have pockets. I mean, I'm not really too sure on whether signing Branislav Ivanovic was a great signing, but I think Kieran Gibbs still shows pockets of greatness. Darnell Furlong as well is not a bad player. I mean, Callum Robinson showed excellence against Chelsea. There are pockets everywhere across this team. It's just whether they want to show it. I mean, Romain Sawyers, who was a very, very promising player, came from Warsaw, came through that academy, and then shipped off to West Brom when they were in the Championship, and he's come up and he's a Premier League player. I think if they are to continue to challenge, they will need a lot of investment. And it's something you don't get in the Championship because they can't. When you're down in the football leagues, you have to rely on high wages rather than high transfers. And you only have a certain amount of time in the window to try and get these players. You're not really attractive when you're a newly promoted club. You can get some promising players, but not a lot. So it really does depend on how these new owners will want to spend, whether they invest in the youth, whether they invest in a aging squad, which might not be good for the long run. I think what's very apparent, as I mentioned earlier, with the average possession per game and the 12 goals conceded in the second half, they need a team with stamina. They need a team that can go all game, or they need backup and major depth in that squad. They need a ball holder. I don't think Jake Livermore is that player. Unfortunately, he's a very scrappy player. I don't think they have that player. I mean, you mentioned Conor Gallagher. He's a good player, but I don't think he's there yet. He's not ready to carry this West Brom team. They need a proper central midfielder to hold the play and distribute the ball. Someone to facilitate for this team. And I don't think there's anyone there yet. I mean, they might need some more firepower in all positions. So they need heavy investment either way.
Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely think that there weren't enough players picked from the clubs that went down to the Championship, in my opinion. I think there's still talent at Watford, there's still talent at Bournemouth especially, and definitely talent at Norwich. But Max Aaron somehow is still at the club. I thought he would have been snapped up really, really quick. And same with Emiliano Buendia. Buendia's still there, I'm pretty sure.
Buendia, yes. I mean, Gerard Deulofeu went on loan to
Mm.
Udinese. Ismail Assar is still at Norwich. There
Oh,
is
Watford.
Watford. Sorry, Watford. Yes. I mean, even still, why not try and go for someone the firepower like Andre Gray? You know, he's still there. Is Josh King still at Bournemouth?
Yeah, he's still there.
I mean, there are plenty of players out there. I mean, you know, a lot of other teams did raid Bournemouth and you know for their players. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure why West Brom, a newly promoted club, didn't look towards those relegated players as well.
Yeah, even Bournemouth, they've still got like Brooks still there. They've got Lewis Cook in the midfield. He scored an absolutely fantastic goal, you know, over the weekend, I believe. So there, like you said, there is, you know, bags of talent there to be got. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe West Brom do look towards the Championship, because I don't think that's the, you know, I don't think that's a stupid idea at all, especially clubs that have just gone down, because there's still players there that are worthy of saving. You mentioned earlier the buying Grady Diagana from West Ham. That was a transfer which caused an awful lot of upset, mainly amongst the West Ham fan base. Definitely the West Ham captain, Mark Noble, who took straight to Twitter, quite shockingly, and was instantly kind of like spouting off about how it was an awful move and everything. And you're like, wow, this is the club captain coming out and speaking against the club. Like, that's absolutely crazy. And West Ham are a club in their own way. They have found some extremely good form this season, but definitely Diagana was a player which West Ham was sad to lose. So what West Ham's lost is West Brom's game. I feel like there is talent there. It's just whether we're going to see it. And do you feel that if this kind of deal does happen fairly soon, that we're going to see that investment as early as January? Because it's right around the corner now. We're really fast approaching the halfway point of this season, and I don't know if many clubs are going to spend. I'm not sure. I mean, I personally, for example, Liverpool, I think they're going to have to. I think they're going to have to. I can't see United spending. I can't see a lot of the top six spending, but definitely lower down the leagues, there are some clubs which need to fill these holes. So do you think West Brom can successfully achieve what they want to, either with or without Slaven Birch at the helm? Are they going to be able to find what they need to power through?
What would be smart for West Brom at this point in time is to look for loan players. Look to loan Ismail Assar from Watford. Look to loan Brooks from Bournemouth. You know, you need this firepower. You know, Mateus Pereira is a great player, but he can't do it all by himself. They need that firepower. Look to loans. I mean, look to what did Aston Villa do in the Championship? They loaned Tammy Abraham, and he was firing and got them promoted. So it's just a matter of time before we see, you know, West Brom. You know, yes, you know, loans aren't the way forward for every team, but you need some help, even if it's just a short 6 month one. You can have a loan to buy. If you know, it really the puzzle is quite jaded at the moment. You don't have all the pieces. You've got some pieces, but some of the pieces that you have to put together are quite confusing because you don't know where to go with them, especially with the new owners coming in. Whether, you know, the owners need to sign very quickly, they do need to get this deal done over the dotted line as fast as they can to start investing as much as they can. If they want to come in and invest, then they will. I think it's just a matter of time before, unless the deal goes through too late, no investments made, and West Brom suffer because of it, and they go down to the Championship and they become, not even become, they continue to be that yo-yo team that we know at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, even then, you know, we saw earlier on, we were talking more about this Newcastle deal. You know, it came up a few times, and then there was one initially a long time ago now. Then another one came about over the first kind of lockdown, and it was like, oh, okay, you know, this is really heating up now. And then nothing. It just falls through completely. And all Newcastle fans were on the edge of their seat. They were ready for it. They were crying out for it because of the, you know, slightly tyrannical reign of Mike Ashley at that club. You know, definitely the fans are very vocal about him. West Brom fans, I don't necessarily know if they're as passionate about, you know, the owner himself, but they certainly want change. The fans are craving it. And if it's there to be taken, you know, the fans are going to want it even more. If it's there in the papers, the fans are going to want it even more. And if, you know, they're dangling it in front of them and then they rip it away out of nowhere, you're going to have a lot of very, very disappointed fans. And, fans are going to be loyal to your club no matter what they're going to be, but they're not going to they're not going to be quiet about their disappointment, I think. So it's letting the fans down at the end of the day.
I think with the West Brom fans, I think there's a level of expectation when it comes to clubs like Newcastle getting taken over. Whereas the West Brom fans have been used to kind of mediocrity for a while now. There's been that period of where they haven't really won anything. There's been great seasons, of course. There's been very good seasons. There've been very good players. Peter Odemwingie is one that stands out as well. Like, so many great players throughout the years, but they haven't really done as much as what Newcastle did with Alan Shearer and all those sorts of players, the caliber, and almost winning in the first Premier League season. But I'm not too sure what is kind of there with West Brom at the moment. So I don't think that the fans are going to be as vocal. They don't necessarily might not want this takeover to happen. Some might be happy with how the club's being run at the moment. I mean, they won't turn down this at all. I mean, if my club was going to get taken over by someone else, I mean, I would. You don't know what the West Brom fans are like. I mean, no one really knows about the current majority shareholder of West Bromwich Albion and what he's like behind the scenes.
I think definitely when it's especially when it's a foreign investor overseas, that I'm sure they do their research. They look at what's on the table and stuff like that. But sometimes it takes someone who's extremely devout and passionate about a club to really kind of elevate them. I mean, you look at what like Vichai did for Leicester, and that man was in and around the ground. His family were quite invested, and and there was a real belief there, and he wanted to see the club succeed. And even now, after his passing, that he's still heralded as a real big influence in where Leicester are today. And you look at Leicester now, and they're a Premier League superpower.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why West Brom can't go under that same vein. But it's all to see, isn't it? We'd love to know what any West Brom fans do think about this. You can always get in contact with us under the comments if you want to message us on any of the social medias, Twitter at Pundits Average, Instagram at Average Pundits, and Facebook at Average Pundits. And also, if you ever want to inquire about coming on, it's the Average Pundits at outlook.com for our business email. You can make any inquiries you want to there. I think one last point that I kind of lean on with this whole takeover, with, let's say it all happens. Let's say they come in and they make three particular areas where they can improve their squad, or three specific positions. I mean, I don't know about you personally. I think firepower is definitely needed. So I think definitely adding to the attack. And then, like you said yourself, I think a bit more of an anchor in the midfield, maybe a couple of attackers and a midfield reinforcement is what I'd maybe look at. I'm not sure about you, about what you would think yourself.
Yeah, I think maybe they should invest in a potential centre back partnership with Semi Ajayi. Maybe not even like a ball winning midfielder. I think a box to box midfielder, someone that can hold the ball, because someone that can play with. I mean, Mateus Pereira, put him in a central attacking midfield position, I think could be fantastic. Play more centrally instead of trying to play off the wings. I think that would suit him completely well. I mean, Dean Garner is a fantastic player, so I think a striker that can just get in to the box and get in the right position at the right time, is not afraid to fight for the ball in and around the box. Maybe a target man for them. So we'll have to see, really, or unless they go with the new Villa approach, they brought in Ollie Watkins to suit the fast style of the Premier League, and maybe West Brom need to do that as well. So again, it's just really all we have to see is what do West Brom do with this takeover if it goes through before or during the January transfer window.
I definitely think it is a topic we will be revisiting, hopefully fairly soon. We were very interested to see how this story develops. But as we said, it's reported today, so we want to make sure we got it out to you guys and to share our opinions of it. Before we wrap up today's podcast, another thing to mention, this is the last podcast we'll do whilst this is kind of happening. But if you haven't seen already, myself and Reese have been fundraising this month for the charity Mind, working really closely with people suffering with their mental health. Obviously, second lockdown, thankfully coming out of it fairly soon, or tier system well-being and stuff like that. You need to keep all that in consideration. But hopefully, we will be out of this kind of like situation we're in soon. And they do a lot of much-needed work. And if any of you have any spare pounds, that you could potentially see going towards a really good cause like mine, both mine and Reese's links will be in the comment section below, in the description rather. Doesn't matter who you donate to; it's all going to a good cause. But we would be extremely appreciative if anyone would like to help out on a very good cause. So just David Reese is doing the cycling, I'm doing the running. We're both growing mustaches and stuff as well.
Not that you can tell.
So it is there. I can confirm it is there. It's a bright room. I can confirm I've seen the mustache. This is present. I hate it. I can't wait for it to go. But I miss the beard. But but there we go, guys. Thank you, Reese, for joining me as always.
No, it's okay. And if you're watching here on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast or Google Podcast, make sure you come over to the YouTube channel, subscribe. Somewhere above me right now is the subscriber count. We're on 108 subscribers, so make sure that we are aiming towards that subscriber goal that's above me right there. Make sure to do as Joe says, follow us on Twitter and our Instagram and our Facebook as well. Make sure you do hit us on our email address. But yeah, Joe, it's really interesting topic to try and come back and revisit, and hopefully soon we get some more news to fill in the average pundit's faithful.
Very true. Hopefully we do indeed. Thank you very much, guys, and we will see you next time.